welcome to Grow Your Greenhouse. We've got an exciting event tonight. While the sun goes down and it's cooling off outside here in Texas, I wanted to make my first batch of soap. And this is a basic cold process soap. And I'm going to be using olive oil, castor oil, and coconut oil in it. And I've got that already mixed up in my container. And all I've got to do right now is mix the lye into the water, and I've got that measured off. The recipe calls for 5 ounces of water, and then it calls for 2.2 ounces of lye, and then it calls for 11 ounces of olive oil, 5 ounces of coconut oil, and then a ½ ounce of castor oil. And basically what I'm going to do is mix the lye now. I'm going to put on my goggles and then mix it up. And I'll be outside here where the fumes can dissipate. And you always put the powder into the water. I learned that back in plumbing when we cleaned out old cast iron drains. Well, let's go ahead and mix that up. Got the goggles on. And carefully pour the lye into the water. There we go. And then stir it with a stainless spoon. This gets hot very quickly. You can see the fumes coming off of it. It gets cloudy and then it will clear up. We want to make sure that we have all the lye mixed in, the powder mixed into the water. And then as soon as we do that, we'll be able to take and pour it into the oil or the fat. There are soap makers that say that you need to wait. I am going to try it without waiting based on extensive study that I've done. The coolness of the oils will get heated up with the lye water, and the lye water will cool down as it works into the oils. And then we're going to, after we pour that lye water in here, then we'll take and mix it up with the spoon and let that sit for a minute. And then we're going to use the stick blender to finish the process. And just for safety, I've got apple cider vinegar that I can pour on myself if I have a problem, if I don't anticipate. And everything else seems ready. I've got long sleeve shirt on and the gloves. But this is going to be so fun to make a batch of soap, my first batch. And many thanks to Sweet Georgia Brown, who started teaching me this about a year ago. So everything looks like it's mixed well. So we'll take and we'll pour the lye water in slowly. That's heating up. And the coconut oil hadn't quite melted yet, but it will melt now with this happening. And as it's melting down, once the chunks are almost gone, then I'll take and use the stick blender. And we want it to saponify, or go to trace, which means that it actually changes state into the soap. And soap is not lye and soap is not oil. It's what happens after the lye and the oil and the fats all meet. Now I could take and spend about 20 minutes stirring this up and get it to trace, or I could use the stick blender. I opt to use the stick blender, and I'll mix it for about 15 or 20 seconds at a time. And as I do that, then I'll let it rest for a minute, because I don't want it to take and get all frothy and everything. And you put the stick blender in at an angle so there's no air bubbles, and you just press it. Work it all the way around. We want to see it trace. I'm going to let it sit for a minute, and what I'll do, I'll use this as a spoon to stir it around, because you don't want to make it happen too quickly. Everything looks like it's doing really well. Hasn't quite gone to trace yet. Starting to thicken up just a tiny bit. Trace is where it leaves the little tailings across the top, where it's starting to support itself. Starting to thicken up a little bit now. Almost there. I'll clean this off a little bit and set it down. And I'm going to stir this for just a second. I think it needs just a little bit more. It's almost there. We'll do it for a few more seconds and then we'll be able to pour it off. I think that's good. That's gone to trace. I'll show you here. I'll bring it over. When it's gone to trace, it leaves little tailings on the top. It's really cool. But it's time to pour this off now. And I'm going to pour it into my silicone mold here. And then one thing I need is my spatula. I left that in my tote over here. Because it's soap, just get it all out of there. It's just because it's clean. But you don't want to ever wash this down the sink. You want to get everything out of the bowl that you can get out. Nice bars of soap. And then what I'm going to do now is going to wipe off the edge. I'm going to take and spray with rubbing alcohol the top. And that will stop any soda ash from forming. And then what I do now, I take this regular plastic wrap and I want it to lay down on top of the soap by itself. Lay down on the surface. I don't want to push it on the surface, I just want it to lay on the surface, and that really helps stop any kind of soda ash. And if I had more, see, this is a 1 pound batch that I made, and if I would have made a 2 pound batch, it would have totally filled up the silicone mold. There you have it. I'm going to bring over the camera now, and I can take off my goggles. I'll bring the camera over so you all can see this. So there we go. It's ready to go. My first ever batch of soap. Woohoo! Well, and then we're going to put a blanket around it. I'll put it inside on the washing machine, and then put a blanket around. And then we'll be able to cut it tomorrow night in the bars, and then we just have to turn the bars once a day for a couple of weeks and it'll be all ready. So thanks for coming to this episode of Grow Your Greenhouse. We just made soap. Woohoo! Stay tuned for more wonderful episodes. Have a great evening.